All right, good morning, Wasteland. Mr. G here bringing you some Crossout. A little sleepy today because I was out camping last night and some younglings played the music until 2 in the morning. Funny story, Mrs. G was like, turn your music down. And one kid said no. And then she's like, do it or I'm going to slash your tires. Music went down. And there's a reason I married that mama bear. She gets things done. All right. What are we talking about today? Big changes possibly coming to Crossout, big enough that they decided to put them on the mass test server. Unfortunately, I missed the window. Fortunately, the most experienced players on the Discord, a lot of my mods, thank you to Opal Cadet 1963, and Zebra Runner, and Quantum K9 for kind of giving me their feedback. I think Opal put this all together, aka Commodore, with feedback from Zeb and Quantum. So first of all, why are they putting it on the test server? Well, they really want you guys to have a look and see what you think about it. But what they're changing is kind of a complete change to tonnage, mass, and how movement parts move things and how cabins work. I'm going to do my best to break it down, and then I'm going to give the thoughts from the boys on the server. So tonnage. Now tonnage is gained only at the expense of chassis and some engines. Cabins no longer affect overall tonnage of the vehicle, but still restrict the weight limit of the vehicle. Most chassis have received a significant increase in the tonnage that they give to the car. Okay, torque. Torque is a new parameter of the cabin, which is the kind of energy for the chassis, so think acceleration. You can only install the chassis until you've reached a limit of the torque parameter for your vehicle, or until there are not enough extra torque points to install another chassis. You also won't be able to install additional chassis if you have depleted the total parts limit for the vehicle. Chassis are still counted in the total parts limit. Cabin torque is increased by the engine, and if you fuse the cabin. Other changes to chassis. The parameters of most chassis have been revised in order to better highlight their role in the game. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. For example, chassis of special rarity now clearly differ from rare chassis, and you can see this on the test server. Wheel grip with different surfaces has been improved. The behavior of wheels has become more predictable. The handling at high speeds should improve. There's a lot there, but what the heck are they talking about? So let's jump in to some feedback, torque system, balance notes from the boys here. So what they're saying is changes proposed by the devs to attempt to address real problems, but introduce more problems than they solve. In addition, balance changes proposed by the devs. These changes reduce player creativity. Torque limits on cabins heavily limit which movement parts can be installed on a craft. That's never a good thing in a sandbox building game, to limit the kinds of builds people can do. And it also feels like they're throwing away a lot of the balance changes that have already been built into the system. I get they're like, hey, maybe we need to just redo this whole thing and figure it out. Maybe this isn't the way to go about it. So heavy movement parts are not able to be installed on light cabs. And heavy cabs are unable to install many heavy movement parts, even though they are within mass limit due to torque limit. So this means you're only going to be able to use, because of those torque points, certain movement parts with certain cabins. I don't know if I like that. It's really kind of pigeonholing you into doing certain builds and reducing creativity. So wheels. All wheels in the test server gain significant mobility buffs, including faster acceleration, speed recovery, and improved traction, just like they said. Wheel movement on the live servers is balanced, so these tend to just be like an over buff. The durability mass changes proposed are also unnecessary. There are too many to list, but the two important ones are the mass nerf given to Hermit wheels and the durability nerf given to Bigfoots. Hermit wheels are already barely used due to the fact that they have no ground clearance compared to Bigfoots, so nerfing their weight reduces one of the few reasons to choose them over other wheels. Totally agree, guys. Bigfoots are already properly balanced for their current state on live servers, and nerfing their durability would have a significant impact on their performance due to the giant hitbox they have. Totally agree. Bigfoots underperform on heavy cabs due to needing many to maximize tonnage, so a tonnage buff would bring these in line. Okay, so they're really tweaking the way movement parts work. Now the biggie is going to be hovers. So let's break down hovers as they are now on live server versus hovers on test server. Two main reasons that people use hovers. People feel like they should have wimpy health but high speed. I think we can all agree that's pretty fair. Allowing builds with lighter weapons and armor to compensate for their lack of strength and health, with the ability to better play around cover, reposition, and dodge incoming fire. AKA, you're a glass cannon if you're running hovers, which makes sense. In current meta, the most popular hovers utilize high mass limit cabins like Icebox, Echo, and Yokozuna to maintain high power levels and high durability at the same time. Encouraging players to use lighter craft with lighter, maneuverable cabins will place hovers into space with low durability and high mobility, a niche currently unfilled. Okay, so they want us to start using lighter cabins with hovers. Let's see how it actually plays out test server. On the test server, the acceleration of hovers appears to be determined by the percentage of the cabin's mass limit used, rather than by the base weight of vehicle. This results in hovers of equal masses being far less responsive on cabins with low mass limits than they are on cabins with higher mass limits. Hovers making use of light or medium cabins become extremely underpowered on the test server, having slow acceleration, low mobility alongside low durability. Yeah, who wants that? Why would you want a wimpy vehicle with no durability and it's slow? However, the hovers that feel the most overpowered currently all make use of heavy cabins, meaning they haven't been nerfed compared to hovers on light and medium cabins. So for some reason, hovers are still working on those heavy cabins because of this new torque system. This has the overall effect of making the most maneuverable hovers the most durable ones using heavy cabins as opposed to light vehicles with low health. Feel like they missed the ball a bit on that one. Mechanical legs. The reason these movement parts are underperforming are not the durability and mass stats. The problem of both ML200s and Bigrams are as follows. These movement parts are not durable enough when compared to faster movement parts. Spiders don't have Hover's ability to quickly dodge around, which means they're always going to take more damage than a build that can avoid damage, so they've got to tank it. They're also unable to close the distance on faster builds, which can simply outrun them. You're slow when you're on legs. So the acceleration buff proposed on the test server would help, which is good, I'll agree. An acceleration buff to mechanical legs should be pushed onto live servers to allow them to better trade, shots, and maneuver around the map. Secondly, ML200s and Bigrams, while they're in leg mode, are very easy to wedge and push due to lack of ground traction. This results in even very light wheels being able to wedge these guys, preventing spiders from being able to fight back, leaving increased durability essentially null and void. The torque system does not address this issue with mechanical legs when they can be pushed around by builds with less than half the weight. As a side note, proposed changes to Bigrams and wheel modes will encourage users to ignore the leg mode entirely in favor of the quick accelerating wheel mode, which is already favored for push teams. On to meat grinders and omni wheels. Meat grinders and omnis both receive big acceleration buffs, but neither of those buffs make them more powerful in the actual game. This is because those buffs only apply when a build is not rotating. As soon as the build begins to rotate, all power is lost and speeds drop to 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. This problem makes meat grinders and omnis extremely underpowered, and this buff fails to address it. Addressing these parts losing excessive speed while changing direction would impact their viability more than an acceleration buff. Okay, small tracks. Small tracks are currently overperforming while the rest of tracks are underperforming. I think we can all agree. Yes, they needed a buff, but now they're the ultimate track. The high speed of small tracks enables them to dodge shots while closing distance and using this ability to protect their guns and cabin. Small tracks receive a large reduction in mass on the test server, which is unnecessary because they weren't heavy before. Small tracks need a nerf to the unrealistic attraction, which allows them to essentially just stick and move all over the place and maneuver better and allows them to push around much heavier, larger builds. Buffing these parts with a reduction in mass will further increase their effectiveness, making them even more OP than they already were. Hardened and armored tracks. Similar to meat grinders and omnis, these guys are getting a massive acceleration buff, but it fails to address the problems with tracks. Medium and heavy tracks are very underpowered in clan wars because they don't protect the important parts of the build from taking damage. It's easier to shoot around the tracks, remove the guns, or destroy the cabin without even having to worry about the tracks. The acceleration buff would increase their maneuverability, but in general, these vehicles are disabled by damage that does not target tracks. Okay, Goliaths are currently in a spot where they're hard to balance. They often overperform at low power scores where a low rarity cabin is hidden completely inside them, allowing them to survive shots that would cripple many other builds. At high power scores, Goliaths are a large target, often killed by range damage that they simply cannot dodge. A flat stat buff to Goliaths will lead them to overperforming at low PS, but they're not viable in clan wars due to being so easy to hit like mechanical legs. A buff to allow high power score builds to preserve more durability, like the proposed perk for armored tracks above would increase their viability. So we got a proposed track fix here. One solution to the issue of track builds could be to introduce a perk to allow them to take more damage without being disabled. One proposed idea could be adding resistance to the whole build when stopped to allow these builds to better defend capture points. To prevent them from overpowering low power scores, it should scale with cabin rarity, 10% buff for rare, 25% on epic and legendary, maybe an idea. So, it sounds like the devs are trying to figure this out. Sounds like they're trying to work on issues of movement parts, acceleration, and balance, but maybe too big of a change too soon, and it seems like they're changing things that maybe don't need to be changed, but that's the joy. As much abuse as we give Targem, they're giving this on a giant test server and they're letting all the players test it. And trust me, they are there on the back end looking at which parts perform best and which don't. They spreadsheet all of this, they look at the stats, and they do use data to make the changes, even though sometimes it doesn't always feel like it. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below, and as always, like and subscribe for all things Crossout, and a huge thank you to Commodore for being the guy behind this to put this all together. Said Quantum K9 as well. Couldn't give people this kind of informative Crossout without you guys helping me do it. As always, be good, stay safe. Mr. G out.